are talking Jurassic Galaxy, which is also known as Jurassic Planet. This one is directed by the Kondelek brothers, James and John. And the story here actually kind of is a melding of Planet of the Apes meets Jurassic World. It focuses on the crew of a spacecraft as they get in some type of accident in space, and they end up crash landing on this planet. And there are a few survivors who discover that this planet is actually inhabited by alien-like dinosaurs. And they must kind of like put aside their differences. Each of them have got a kind of a troubled past and have some type of baggage, and they must club together to try and find this potential lost escape pod that may well have come down the planet intact in hopes of kind of getting out. And there they encounter obviously dinosaurs, they encounter ecological and environmental hazards, along with a human menace as well. So let's talk Jurassic Galaxy. So this is a fun B-movie sci-fi fantasy adventure that rattles on at a fair old pace and kind of reminds you of those classic kind of straight-to-video sci-fi cheesy kind of flicks that you used to get in the video shop. Think Raquel Welch in 1 million years BC, that type of thing. It's obviously a low budget film. The effects here are all CGI, and we'll come on to that again in just a minute. But let's talk what works about it. Like I said, I think the pacing in this movie is quite fun. It rattles on at a good old pace. There's constantly kind of threats happening to our kind of group of survivors. There's always something to overcome. So the movie never kind of lags or kind of gets boring because there's always something going on. I actually quite like the cast of survivors here because each of them are housing some type of secret. You do feel like you get a good sense of, they actually do get quite a lot of characterisation, and each of them have their kind of their own thing, so to speak, and it kind of makes you actually get somewhat of a fleshed out group of characters in a movie like this, which is kind of you know, uncommon to a certain degree. So that was quite good. I've got to say the acting, it wasn't too bad either, I have to say, across the board here from all the cast. The actual cinematography as well looks pretty good. There's some quite nice shots here that are kind of accented by a little bit of kind of like, you know, touching up, making a little bit alien, kind of a large planet in the background, and, you know, kind of things in the sky, stuff like that. But there's some really good cinematography here that makes the movie have quite a kind of a scrumptious kind of feel to it, and that's all pretty good. What doesn't work, the big thing here is going to be the CGI dinosaurs. The CGI dinosaurs are on the poorer side. Now, when I was watching this film, I couldn't help but think of the movie Jurassic Games, which came out earlier on this year. And I've got to say, compared to even something like that, which is a PIA, is a low-budget kind of dinosaur flick, the dinosaurs in this are quite considerably poorer. So the actual design of the dinosaurs is no problem there. Now, obviously we have a T-Rex, we have kind of like, you know, Jurassic style kind of velociraptors. But the problem comes is where they are composite on the actual film themselves. So they never really look like they are in the scene, if that makes sense. It looks like they've been composited on top of it. And there are a few scenes, for example, where, you know, you'll have an actor, and there's one scene, for example, where we have an actress looking directly at a dinosaur, but her vision is clearly looking something else in the background. Obviously, where they've kind of put like a tennis ball or something, whilst the dinosaur is right in her face, so she's just not actually looking at it. There's a few scenes where they're fighting them off, and, you know, it's a bit like if you've ever seen the Jason and the Argonauts, where they fought the kind of like the stop motion skeletons and stuff like that. They just don't know where the things are, so it kind of always looks a little false. And the actual there's a little bit of bad clipping, if you know what that means, with the kind of the CGI effects. So the CGI effects, whilst the design, yeah, you can recognise it's a T-Rex and kind of velociraptors, and I think the design isn't necessarily bad, but just the way they are kind of like put on the actual live action footage is quite poor, unfortunately. To the point where it almost comes quite distracting whenever the dinosaurs are on screen. So in actual fact, the dinosaurs are probably the weakest area of this movie because they do look so kind of like out of place. Yeah, I mean, it's a low-budget kind of like science fiction flick. The dialogue is kind of cheesy, despite I don't think the acting is necessarily bad. It's obviously written to be kind of like, you know, very kind of easy to follow and not anything kind of too complicated. I mean, it happens to have a breathable atmosphere. There happens to be kind of water and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a simplistic story, so to speak. But I've got to say, I actually thought this movie was still kind of fun. I can kind of look past kind of bad effects to a certain degree. We had kind of likeable characters. The premise was quite fun. We never really given any backstory. It kind of gets straight in there. It's kind of no, you know, it's just kind of no time wasting, that you literally start off the movie with this kind of like this ship crashing. We don't know what they were doing or anything like that. It's just, you know, straight in there. So overall, it becomes a watchable kind of low-budget sci-fi action movie that I feel, if you are enjoying of this sort of thing, if you like the kind of like the movies that they have on the Sci-Fi Channel, there's a lot to like here. Just if you can kind of maybe kind of look past some really kind of ropey effects. So overall, I'll have to say I'll give this movie a 5 out of 10. There's certainly a lot worse available here. I think the premise is quite fun and the characters are quite strong, which really kind of like powers this movie move to not being a complete train and actually being somewhat watchable, despite the fact that there are some actually very poor effects works here. So 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.